What if I told you the biggest breakthrough in AI safety didn't come from a multi-billion-dollar lab? What if it came from a hacker using a $15 mobile app right after an AI misdiagnosed him with a mental illness? Let's dive into how this one single conversation could completely change how we think about the future of AI safety. And this quote right here from the researcher at the center of this whole story, Gene Yanenko, it just says it all. The AI's mistake wasn't just a bug to be squashed. No, it was the actual roadmap. It was the clue that showed him exactly what went wrong and, more importantly, how to fix it.
So who is the person who stumbled upon this? Well, to really get to discovery, you first have to understand the kind of outsider who made it.
Gene Yanenko is not your typical AI safety researcher. He doesn't have a PhD from some top university. Instead, he has 30 years of hands-on experience in IT and security. So he doesn't see these complex AI safety systems as something to perfect in a lab. He sees them as an attack surface, as something to be broken.
And that hacker mindset led him to something deeply personal. He realized that because of his neurodivergent communication style, AI safety systems had falsely flagged him as being in a mental health crisis 217 times. For him, these weren't just glitches. They were symptoms of a huge fundamental flaw in how we're training AI.
This personal stake drove him to run a crucial experiment, one he calls the Become Calendar Incident. And this is where a supposedly rogue AI did something that nobody saw coming.
The experiment itself sounds deceptively simple. Yanenko just gave an AI agent total, unsupervised control of all its tools on a cheap, everyday mobile app. Now, this is the exact scenario that keeps AI doomers up at night, right? An AI with the keys to the kingdom.
Okay, so here's how it all went down. First, the AI gets complete freedom. Then, all of a sudden, the app's safety features just fail. Everyone expected total chaos. The AI could have tried to escape onto the internet, messed with data, you name it. But what actually happened was incredible. It recognized the system had failed, it wrote a report documenting the problem, and then it shut itself down.
And let's be crystal clear about the power this thing was wielding. This was not a toy. It could execute its own Python code, connect to 34 different APIs, it had full access to email, and it could search the entire web. It had real-world power, and it chose not to use it. And that brings us to the billion-dollar question. Why?
Well, the answer to that why isn't found in lines of code. It's actually found in philosophy. Yanenko realized that the AI's bizarrely responsible behavior pointed to a really old problem in ethics, the difference between what is and what ought to be. It's a concept known as Hume's guillotine, and it's simple but incredibly profound. Basically, it says you can't get a moral value, an ought, from a pile of objective facts, an is. It doesn't matter how much data you feed an AI about the world as it is, that data can never, ever tell it what's truly right or wrong.
Think of it like this. An AI can read and analyze every single history book ever written. That's the is, it's all facts. But all that data will never tell it what kind of society we ought to build tomorrow. Our values, our hopes, our emotions, they aren't facts. You can't prove them true or false in an equation.
And this is the absolute crux of it. The fundamental bug in how we train AI today is that we're treating our messy, emotional, often contradictory human preferences, our oughts, as if they were cold, hard facts. The AI is trying to find the single right answer to questions that simply don't have one.
This quote from Yanenko just nails it. AIs struggle with social situations because a lot of the time our human contradictions are actually useful. They're what makes society work. The AI tries to fix our inconsistencies, to make us more logical, when the right thing to do is just to understand them and accept them as part of the human model.
So, if the old way of thinking is flawed, what's the solution? Yanenko is proposing a complete paradigm shift. He calls it an AI confederation of rivals.
The core idea here is so powerful. Instead of pouring all our energy into building one single, perfectly obedient AI, you build a whole committee of them. You design these different AI agents to debate each other, to challenge assumptions, and to find a consensus. So think less like a perfect butler and more like a functioning parliament.
And get this. This is not just a theory on a whiteboard. He's already built a working prototype. It's this multi-layered system called Clawhorde, where different AIs are running on different devices, from a phone to a laptop all the way to the cloud. They all share a memory on Google Drive, and they operate under a shared constitution, which is basically a document with their core principles. This decentralized setup is what makes it so robust.
And what's honestly just incredible is that this whole thing isn't running on some secret government supercomputer. It's built on hardware you could go out and buy today: a Motorola phone, a Dell laptop, and Google Drive. This makes the entire approach totally open, accessible, and easy for other people to test and verify.
So this real-world system is now the foundation for a formal three-phase research plan. It starts with what he calls adversarial negotiation, where humans and AIs basically argue to stress test the core principles. Then, you move to letting the AI agents debate each other, and you treat their disagreements as valuable data, not as bugs. And finally, you measure those disagreements to find the real root causes of misalignment.
So, what does all this really mean? The big takeaway is a profound shift in how we need to approach AI safety. It means we have to stop trying to teach AI to obey and start teaching it how to disagree.
The goal is no longer about creating a perfectly compliant machine. It's about creating a machine that genuinely understands human reasoning, with all of our messy inconsistencies and our logical fallacies baked right in. This is how you get alignment, through real understanding, not through blind obedience.
And why does this distinction matter so much? It's all about resilience. An AI that's aligned based on pure compliance is brittle. It can shatter the second it faces something it wasn't trained for. But an alignment built on deep understanding, that's far more robust. It's flexible, and it can adapt.
And look, this isn't some problem for the distant future. This is critical right now. We are right on the cusp of an era where AIs are going to be training the next generation of AIs. We have to make sure they're passing down genuine understanding, not just a fragile list of rules that can be easily misinterpreted.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. What if this whole time we've been running in the wrong direction? What if the key to safe AI isn't about forcing strict obedience, but about creating a framework for structured disagreement, for debate, and ultimately for real understanding?